of Lego Pokemon. And this new range will be unique in the sense that it will have exactly the smart play component to it, which will actually allow fans to do something that they've been dreaming of, which is to see their real Pokemon come alive. Evan.
Yeah, I also love this case.
I'm delighted to introduce to the stage Julia Goldin and Federico Begher.
Thank you so much for having us here. I'm Julia.
Hi everyone, I'm Federico.
We're super excited to be here. Last year was the first time that I presented it at South by Southwest, and we talked about F1 parade that we did last year. I don't know how many of you remember that, but we had these big cars that the drivers were in, and it created kind of a bit of a storm and social media following. And I think at least people who were in the audience kind of liked it and invited us back. And so today we wanted to talk a bit about how we actually do this. Because last year, of course, people loved the parade, but also asked, wow, how are you going to beat that? What are you going to do next? And of course, this year, nobody's talking about the parade anymore, and they're all talking about this, which was the football content that we launched a few weeks ago on Instagram. And just overnight, over a couple of days, it gathered over 10 billion engagements. There was one post had 440 million views, which is huge. And then we had tens and hundreds of millions engagements from fans who started to share the post, but also do a lot of their own versions of it as well. And what we actually wanted to open the hood on is not exactly what we do, but actually how do we sustain it? And what's that sort of secret sauce and secret formula, if you will, that keeps the brand going? And maybe we should start here, because our brand was born in 1932, so in a few years' time we will be 100 years young. And throughout that time, we went from being just a humble childhood toy, it was created as that, to become a brand experience that I can now say is truly loved by all. Especially because in the last 10 years, we have extended our audience massively in terms of multi-generational, from young kids all the way to adults, both genders, men and women, girls and boys, teen girls and boys. We're very happy to always have them on our side, who really love the brand and engage with it in so many different ways. And just to give you a snippet of maybe what the last 12 months have looked like, take a look.
Action!
Stop playing!
Stop playing?
Never. Life-size, rideable, Lego build, all-in-one car. Check it out, get loose. A new platform made of endlessly innovative smart things. Space, the final frontier.
That was close.
Yeah. So, what do you think?
Never stop.
It is official. Lego Pokemon creatures are finally here.
We're gonna catch and build them all.
about today. So the first thing is that we are obsessed by our audiences and their passions. And we really spend the time understanding and getting under the hood of what people are all about and what they're really into. And not just, as you will also hear from Federico, not just the marketing people or insights people, we make it everybody's business to really understand our audiences and their passions. And secondly, we never take creativity for granted, and we always think of it at scale. And that means thinking of things that are unimaginable and continuing to deliver something extra special to our fans that will continue to surprise and delight them. And finally, innovation at the heart of everything that we do, even touching the things that are the most sacred, like the brick. So let's talk about the audiences first. So as I said, deep understanding of our audience is what unlocks so much potential because, 10 years ago, the Lego brand was mostly for boys. It was mostly toys for boys, maybe a little bit for grown-up boys that were building really big Lego creations in their garages and in their basements. But it was pretty much that. And today, it's truly a brand for everybody. And the reason that happened is because not only did we have the audacity to say, well, why shouldn't we be connecting with more adults, or why is it for boys and not for girls? But we then went very deeply in understanding these different consumer groups in terms of very specific age targets, very specific genders, their passions and what they're into. And that enabled us to unlock a lot of potential. We brought a lot of girls into the portfolio. As a matter of fact, we are super happy to see them growing faster than most of our audiences. And that's because we unlocked their passions. Actually, I heard for a long time, girls don't build, moms don't build, girls don't know how to build. That's bullshit. Girls build better than boys. I can tell you that. But you need to give them something that they really want to build. And maybe they didn't want to build police stations. They wanted to build flowers. They wanted to build pets. And not only is it about building and giving them the sets that they love, but it's also giving them the voice and representing them in the right way. And that's why we have a campaign that's unashamedly says, she built that. And that's why we also do things like Time Girl of the Year, to really acknowledge girls' creativity and create relevance and engagement with them and with their parents. And the second example I will use is adults. Again, we had adult fans of Lego. They were a very specific group, very small, very, very dedicated. Why not other adults? Why not you guys? You all want to have fun. You want to have moments of focus and engagement in your own lives. We recognize that. But again, unlocking adults was unlocking multiple passions. And I can tell you, unlike the journey with girls and boys, where we were boys first and then brought girls in, with adults we're growing faster with women than with men. And we have more women by numbers in our adult base than men. And that includes teen girls. And they are building just fine. Again, because we're giving them the stuff that they're passionate about. Art, beautiful flowers, beautiful things to build. But we're also doing the same with so many different audiences within the adult group, with so many different passions that you can see represented there. The example we wanted to bring to life, and I'm going to ask Heather to talk about it, is how we cracked into passions. So one passion that was really difficult for us to access was sport, and in particular football. We tried many times and it didn't work so well, but then, Heather.
Great. So this is I love this case. I am from Argentina, so I'm a football-obsessed person, so very close to my heart. But it is really also, objectively speaking, a case that shows audience obsession and getting to know an audience that we didn't know. I think that's what's interesting here. So as Julia said, we had tried things in sports before. We had launched a few products. We had done a few partnerships, but we were moderately successful at best, and it wasn't something that we were really, things that we were really present. So a couple of years ago, we talked about what was happening in 2026, and we said, hey, there's the World Cup. That's a pretty big thing in culture. Are we not going to even try it? Because we had been a bit burned with this one. And the dialogue that took place then was, well, if we try, we have to do it differently. we really need to get under the skin of the culture, of the subcultures within football, and come up with our own voice. So we decided to give it a go, and we did things differently. It started by putting together a different team, a different dedicated project. We spoke with experts. We started with people that had the knowledge. We brought them in as consultants. We brought them in to work on the project itself as well. So we already were seeing a lot of expertise in there. Then we did a ton of research, obviously. Research is important. And we did research in many different ways, mostly with kids, but also with teens and adults. And we did it in the US, we did it in Germany, China, and the UK. So we got a lot of different flavors. You know, it's not football is not the same in the US, actually, you should call it soccer there, than in Germany, right? Very different things. But we were trying to look for what's really big and universal under all of that. And then we observed and talked to kids. You know, one thing is research and data, another thing is to really kind of live it and speak to someone. And I can tell you, reading a slide about a kid that is a fan of Cristiano Ronaldo is very different than talking to that kid. It's very different experiences, and you can really sense the energy when you speak to them. So all of these things started to give us a much better idea about what was going on in this culture. The other thing that we did is we put together a team of people that had personal affinity. So of course you need the designers that are amazing designers, the creatives that are amazing creatives in the agency, you need the marketeers that are brilliant marketeers. But among that group, you need to have a few that can just sense it, that can feel it in their gut, that can read the research and know what it means between the lines. So having those kind of, not everybody has to be that, but enough of them in the team. So we got a good sense of what was going on in this, and then the next thing was, right, understanding is one thing, but doing something authentically and that fans will like, and they're not just going to see as another brand trying to leverage the moment where everyone else is talking, was a big challenge. So we really wanted to do something that, as a fan, you would like and appreciate. And we tried a lot of things. I have back in the office, there's a whole wall of products that we designed, and kids didn't like. They're saying that's not what I'm about. That's not what my fanship is about. So we tried, we experimented, and we always put the filter of this is something that fans have to love. This has to be original. And I think that we went and we partnered with FIFA. We partnered with 4 of the biggest, if not the biggest, football stars in the world, and we put ideas on the table that felt exciting and original to them first and foremost. We had a lot of commercial success and brand success, but I think to me one of the things that makes me the most proud is because I met them, I was with these icons of the game, and they all saying, we love what you're doing. We love the idea you're bringing to the table. We're in it, No one had put Cristiano and Messe in the same ad like we did. There was one ad, Louis Vuitton, that was just an image. At this scale and the way we did it, no. But they were in it with a lot of complexity, I would have to say. Not an easy task, but they went for it and we pulled it off. So I think that for me is the greatest testament that we were on the right track in this culture.
Should we play that?
Let's play that. We never get tired of it.
For every set that the fan is going to pick up and that we know they're picking up already in love. There's so many Easter eggs, and whether you're a Ronaldo fan or a Messe fan, you're gonna find something that's gonna be true to your icon and your passion. And to me, that's very much a testament to all of the work that Fede talked about. The second thing that we wanted to highlight is this creativity at scale, and how do you actually use creativity to create true cultural impact and moments of culture. And there's a few examples that you see here. We always push ourselves to ask, what can we do that only the LEGO brand can do? And that's why when we think about what we are doing, we never think of just the product. We always think about holistically about the experience. And it could be small moments, it could be big moments, it could be moments of scale. And moments that actually take some audacity and risk to tackle and to crack. Last year we talked about F1. I still think it's a great representation of what started as a great portfolio of products and then turned into, of course, this massive parade. And when we were here talking about the parade, last year you asked, well, what's next? Can you top that? We would never replicate the parade. We would always ask ourselves, what's the next thing that we could do? Which was the pink Cadillac, which created some of these, now most seen Instagram moments with Verstappen and Lando. And then, of course, the announcement of our support for F1 Academy, again, to also support women in sport. I think this is just an example of how we leverage creativity and push ourselves to not just do a partnership that's about the product range, but actually go beyond to truly connect with fans. But one example that we wanted to use here about also how we don't just tap into cultural moments and enhance them and bring our own kind of signature to it in a way that fans truly love. But sometimes it's also about creating culture. And one of the things that happened without actually, kind of naturally, is that in the last 5 years we truly created a culture of LEGO Botanicals, which we now have millions of fans around the world building. And then Fede will talk a little bit about how that came about.
Yeah, I love this example as well for different reasons. It's a bit hard to believe that something like this is one of the most successful lines now, and how it came to be. But I love this example because it shows the creativity that lives as a culture within the walls of the LEGO group. And how this came to be was basically a few years ago. We were in the early phase of our adult strategy, which meant we were thinking very differently about how to create products for adults. It's not the same thing that we've been doing for decades for kids. It's a different experience, it's a different purpose, it's different passions, and so on. So we were on the mindset of being very explorative and looking for different things. And at that time, the designers around the office literally had built Lego bouquets as decoration, as a fun project to do. No one had briefed them. It wasn't part of any project. It wasn't part of any formal work. You just saw the flowers, the bouquets. You would go into a meeting room, and there would be one on a corner, in a few of the meeting rooms. And then I think we just noticed that because we were in this mindset of kind of looking for different things. And a team brought it forward and said, why don't we try this? And we launched one product. We launched one flower bouquet. Sold out. 2021. It sold out incredibly fast, massive success. So we said, okay, there seems to be something there. Fast forward a few years, this is now a massive collection. Right now we've got more than 40 products at any given time out there, all types of flower sizes, colors. It is really a culture of beauty and creativity, and it combines so many great things. It combines the fact that it's an amazing gift. It combines the fact that it's a beautiful decoration, and it's also a very kind of hands-on, mindful activity, which we know that is very needed in today's world. And out of that, a whole category was created and sprouted. It's the TikTok phenomenon. Here are a couple of examples, but it's just endless. People really become deeply engaged with it, deeply passionate about it. It's an experiential phenomenon. You have things like the florists, but like real, almost Lego flowers, flowery shops, and experiences and decoration. So I think it's a great example of somehow things starting small, and from the creativity that sits within the walls of a company, you can create a big cultural movement.
Took a little bit of risk and reading the response from our consumers, but I think now we're super happy to have this flowers, Lego Botanicals, this culture continuing to blossom. And just to point that, you know, many people look at our portfolio, which now has almost 1,000 products, and say, wow, you have so many different partnerships and you have so many different IPs. What's your biggest? This likely to be the biggest portfolio that we have within the whole range of Lego portfolio. It just gives you a sense of how much love we're seeing from consumers. If we move on and talk about the last thing, which is innovation. So the brick was created in 1949. The version that now everybody's building with was created in 1956. And what we call system of play is just the interlocking system of all of the elements we've created since. And we have been very happy to see that this system has translated itself into becoming a canvas for so much creative expression. Of course, the physical sets that we create ourselves, but also all the creations at the hands of our many fans out there. We have a lot of Lego creators that love to create their own sets, and we very much support that. But also digital games, but also content like movies, and various different forms of content, short form, long form, etc., and all kinds of different platforms and expressions. And we're super happy to see that because it retains the consistency of the system of play, but at the same time it gives so much more expression to the brand, and again reinforces this idea of holistic experiences that you can have with the Lego brand, which continue to surprise and delight and tap into a whole plethora of passions, occasions, events, cultural events, etc. But I think one of the things that might be worth talking about is the hardest thing to innovate, which is the thing that's your core. So, you know, here's the original OG, a simple 2x4 brick. By the way, 6 of these bricks of the same color can make up to 950 million different combinations, which is just amazing. Because obviously that opens up huge room for creativity, and we have over 20,000 different shapes and forms which all click together. But we have been very true to this form, because the only really big innovation that happened after we launched it was in 1978 when we introduced the minifig. Because the minifig opened up a whole world of opportunity to bring your favorite characters to life, to see yourself represented, to open up the opportunity for so many different play experiences, play worlds, role play, etc., and of course content and creation, etc., and creativity on a different scale. But since minifig, we've done many things, but nothing really as a huge step change until this year. So for the last 8 years, we worked on something that we introduced this year, which is Lego Smart Play and Lego Smart Brick. So I think you might have seen it because we announced it at CES in January, but this is the Smart Brick. So it comes to life. You can see it maybe a little bit but the light is coming on and I can hear the sound. But this is Smart Brick, which of course fits seamlessly with all the other bricks that we have, so it just fits into the system. But what's inside the Smart Brick is a tiny silicon chip that's smaller than the stud on the brick, so it's tiny, but packed with over 20 patents and proprietary technology that we have developed. And what's unique about it is that it can read programmable tags, and it can read interactive minifigs or tags that are hidden within minifigs. And that means that if it comes into any kind of set, it will bring that set to life. Very simply, it will read whatever features are there on the tag. So if it is a mouse, it will make the noise of a mouse. If it's a cat, it's a cat. If it's a helicopter, it will fly, make a helicopter noise, etc., etc., etc. But not only that, it's not just light and sound. them its opportunity. It can sense distance. It can understand when things are close to each other, when they're far apart. If it's a helicopter about to hit the floor, it will start making a siren noise. If it's up in the sky, it will start making a different noise, etc., etc. So it's reactiveness, it's interactivity, and of course, when it comes into creatures and pets and animals, it's also a lot of emotion. And we are very deliberate about how we actually bring this to life. Now, you're very lucky because we just announced news this morning. It went live public at 2 o'clock, so 26 minutes ago. So I can now tell you about it, and Fede will bring it to life even more. But today we announced a new range of Lego Pokemon. And this new range will be unique in the sense that it will have exactly the smart play component to it, which will actually allow fans to do something that they've been dreaming of, which is to see their real Pokemon come alive. Fede.
Yeah. I also love this case. I might be a bit biased, I think. But, one of the things I love about it is that the smart break, the smart play technology, was not born out of necessity. We've been a successful business for the best part of the last 2 decades. We've been growing quite well, so we didn't have a problem, but we knew. We've been always close to kids, right? So we knew that they've always dreamt of something more. They've always had that kind of Toy Story dream, of toys being alive and toys responding to them. And without any business problem, we just went fully behind that dream for kids. And this is no small innovation, right? It's inventing something that didn't exist. It's inventing a manufacturing system for that. And the beauty of it is when you put it at the service, you don't just say, we invented something cool, let's try to put it in our portfolio. It's when it really fits what the kids are looking for. So in the case of Pokemon, I mean, the best way I can describe the break in a simple way is, it will know what it is. When you put it somewhere, it will know whether now it's a helicopter, now I'm a car, and it will behave like it. It will have behavior, right? So when you pair that with Pokemon, there's something really magic happening. Because if there's anything that Pokemon kids have been saying, not just kids, by the way, since the 30 years that this IP has been around, is they just wish these creatures existed, right? I can be a trainer in the game, and I can be a trainer in the digital world. I wish I could just be a trainer in the physical world. I wish I could have these creatures reacting to me and get a bit of that feeling that I see in the content or in the games. And that is exactly what this break allows us to do. You put the smart break in a Lego Pokemon set, and the smart break knows who it is. It knows, now I'm Pikachu, now I'm Squirtle, now I'm Charizard, and it will behave like that Pokemon, and that means you'll be able to nurture it, feed it, train it, and they will be able to battle with each other. So this is really a thing where innovation is at the service of what the audience wants and dreams of. So yeah, as Julia just said, it's fresh off the oven. We've just unveiled it less than an hour ago. And just to show you a little bit more of how that looks, we have a nice video. So I think we need to cue the video, please. kids be able to battle with their Pokemon, but they'll be able to train them, nurture them,
feed them, and as Federico described, every single one of them will have a different reaction. And just to reinforce why we are so excited about this innovation is that, of course, once they have this brick, the next range of whatever you might launch, the same brick will work. So you'll be able to take this brick into any of your Lego sets and bring it to life, which will just add a new dimension of play to everything the consumers are already loving about the Lego brand and the Lego world. So just to come back, this is a very simple way of thinking, but also something that is very much the driver, I think, in an approach that has helped us to continue unlocking new potentials, new ways of innovating, new ways of connecting with our consumers, being totally obsessed and understanding them so well, pushing ourselves on creativity and innovation, and always thinking about the fan. How do we surprise and delight them? How do we continue surpassing their expectations? But of course, it doesn't just take that. That is an approach. It takes culture of the company, culture of the team, in order to actually make that happen. Because with every one of the successes comes a lot of failures, a lot of risks, a lot of pain and sweat and tears, and feeling uncomfortable and having to learn and having to move forward. So what's behind it? They're very, these are real things. I think a lot of companies say it. I can tell you for sure we live it. The team that creates all of this lives it. We are very much one team. We have a mantra of one team, one dream, one goal, one plan. Everybody knows that, and we definitely all have that same approach. When we come into a team, when a team comes together to do something, they're super committed to it. First and foremost, there's this love that everybody in the Lego group shares of our mission and our brand. And that is really important in order to maintain our authenticity. Because for many things that we could do, we only choose to do those where we can be authentic and true to the fan, and true to the fandom, and true to our consumer and to their passion. The second bit is the appreciation we have for the craft, from creating these incredible Lego sets that our designers do, to everything that we do in terms of all of the experiences, the games, the content, everything that we showed you. And continuously pushing the boundaries of creativity, continuously pushing the boundaries of what we can do that only our brand can do. Learning and innovation has to be embedded, they come together. You cannot innovate if you don't take risks, and if you don't fail, you can't learn. So that has to also be a huge part of the culture. And the more we allow ourselves to take risks, fail, and learn, the better we innovate. And I can tell you, with many things that we showed you today, there was a lot of stuff that had to be left, behind the table. But that's very much what we carry with us as we move forward. But that doesn't happen by accident. It creates a certain culture. It takes a certain culture to create the environment to allow people to do this, to do it like at scale. Not just one person, not just one team, but every team. And that comes back to our values. What's great in our values is values of caring and respect. And that is probably the most important thing, because we truly create a safety net for all of our colleagues when they come in, whether they've been with the company for a long time, whether they're just coming into the team, to actually be able to participate in an environment where risks are being taken, where odd ideas are being bounced all around, where we are able to pivot, and we're able to ask ourselves difficult questions, and we're able to set the bar really high, knowing that maybe it will take us a few tries in order to be able to jump that kind of distance, or to jump that kind of height. I think that is, at the end of the day, the secret sauce of the Lego Group, is this kind of culture of caring and respect that creates the safety net for all of these great things to continue happening, and for the innovation and creativity to continue to thrive. So that's what we wanted to share with you. Thank you very much again for your